The School of Life is a book by Alain de Botton. But it's not just a book, it's also an institution, the real schools. And they have many branches all over the world. This idea was conceived by Alain de Botton, who is a writer and a philosopher, and was then executed a few years ago. It started as a website, as a YouTube channel, and eventually now they have their own schools. The School of Life, the book, is a kind of a self-help book or an educational book with a central theme around the emotional intelligence. How can we educate ourselves on emotional intelligence? Because if you see in today's world, it's rather easy to figure out how can you edit a video, how can you become a general manager, how can you achieve certain things. But it's very hard to find out certain answers. For example, what to do if you don't achieve those things, what to do in case of a breakup, how to deal with the loss of a loved one. These really are important questions in our lives, but we were never trained for them. Nobody gives us this kind of education. And that's why the emphasis throughout this book is on education of not just the children, but the adults. In fact, it's mostly for adults. And as I said, it just serves as an introduction to this whole new world of new education, where we need to learn a lot of tools, a lot of techniques to better equip ourselves in a world where our emotional intelligence is constantly tested. So the book has 5 parts. The first part begins with the idea of self, and which is very much the case in many religions. They focus a lot on the idea of self. In fact, if you read carefully, Alain de Botton constantly talks about how religions are very good at teaching certain things, how they employ certain techniques, the value of rituals, the value of repetitions, the value of art in terms of education. He talks about all these techniques which are important in education. So the first part really talks about who we are and how well we know ourselves or don't know ourselves. And it's really the starting point if you want to work on your emotional health or your mental health, that you need to discover yourself, understand yourself. And the importance of therapies has also been highlighted. Because once again, the idea is we work on ourselves, our own emotions. The second part focuses on other people. What are they doing in our lives? Because the world is growing bigger and bigger, and in the modern world, we know a lot of people outside our tribes. We constantly interact with them. How can we be kind to them? How can we charm them? And how can we be calm in difficult situations, in heated moments? How can we do that? The third section, it goes to our personal relationships. How we deal within our family, how we tackle the challenges of modern relationships, particularly the romantic relationships. Because the modern culture, which is very much living in the aftermath of romanticism, places a lot of importance on romanticism, the idea of romantic relationships, and that puts a lot of expectations, a lot of pressure on us, how we see our romantic relationships. where you need to find your soulmate. If you think that if you feel at certain point something is missing, you immediately give up, because the idea is to strive towards perfection and somehow magically get it rather than work towards it. So in this book throughout, there's a lot of emphasis on learning these basic skills which we don't even consider skills. For example, the idea of love, we don't consider it a skill. It's just a feeling to most of us. But the author shows us that it can be cultivated, it can be learnt, and that can improve our lives. The fourth and fifth sections are relatively shorter. The fourth one talks about the importance of work, our work life. Almost all of us have our professional lives, and there's a lot of pressure once again on us on performance. And how do we deal with that? How do we deal with our ambitions, our career ideas, our passions, our failures at work? And these are the things we don't really learn at school or any other place for that matter. And similarly, the last section emphasizes a lot on the culture around us and how we can improve our culture, where we can discuss these difficult but very simple and profound questions. They are simple because they form pretty much the essence of life, and they're difficult because the answers are nowhere to be found. So it's a very much a starting point to your journey where you start to find these difficult answers. So you can read the book to get some familiarity with the subject, and if you get a chance, if you're lucky enough that the school of life, that particular branch is there in your city, then you should definitely give it a visit and see what's going on there.